All right, this is the fourth and final lecture, I believe, for this chapter. We already talked about these points, so I'll move on to the next slide. All right, mangrove forests are things we don't typically have. We don't have around this area, but they are down in more tropical locations. And you can kind of see one of the benefits of these have is that they help prevent storm surge moving inland, of course, things like hurricanes and such. Most of these have been removed, or many at least have been removed, because people can't navigate them well. So again, they're very good for the land because they protect it, but not so much for people. One, because they're not necessarily attractive, and two, again, people don't have access to getting from the water onto land, so people remove them. Intertidal zones are also, again, very biodiverse because of the differences. It's like an ecotone where you have land areas and you have water areas. And the water, the oceans will move up and down based on the tides, which of course, as you can see, is because of the moon. And I won't mention much about this, but you can kind of take a look and read on this more if you'd like. Coral reefs, we are losing more and more coral reefs every single year because of climate change, and it's a two-pronged thing. It's mostly because of temperature. pH is involved as well because of the carbon that gets into the water from the burning of fossil fuels. But probably the biggest factor is the rise in temperature. So just think of like you or I, if we were 1 degree warmer all the time, we would kind of be feverish. That's exactly what we would be. That is what's going on with the coral reefs as well. So they're having that problem in regards to having a higher temperature all the time. They're very sensitive to that. But then also because of the increased pH, in other words, a lowering of the pH. I said increasing pH, increasing acidity, excuse me, the lowering of the pH in the ocean. So it makes it more difficult for them to create the housing, the calcium carbonate shells or structure, if you will, that provides homes for them. And we talked about life in the open water, and these are some of the names that kind of go along with that. And we saw this in the slides earlier. So you can pause this and take a look at this more if you like. Various plants or bodies of water have definitions based upon the amount of nutrients they have in there. And I think we'll have those coming up here on another slide. So although we can see it here, I'm going to come and talk about it more on another slide. So freshwater works just like in the open ocean, but it gives it slightly different names because they are much, much, much smaller than, of course, the open ocean. You can see you have the littoral zone, which is near the shore, and you can kind of see where it kind of describes that in the pictures. The limnetic zone, which is more open water, and you don't have plants, emergent plants that are rooted to the ground. The profundal, which is deep, and you can see that in the picture. And benthic is everywhere. Benthic is just the bottom. So that stretches all the way across. But these are some vocab words, and again, this goes to freshwater, which is different, of course, from the oceans. All right, this is that nutrient slide I was talking about earlier. Lakes have different nutrient levels. So if you are oligotrophic, that's it's spring fed. It doesn't have, it's nice and clean to the eye, and they're more pleasant for us to go swim in. If it's eutrophic, which is like a lot of our lakes are in Michigan, there's a lot of nutrients in there. And over time, at some point in the future, they will fill in. So this is what, for example, if you live on a lake, many times because of activities over the last 100 years of us living on these lakes, we put a lot of fertilizer on our lawns and a variety of other things because we live near them, getting nutrients into these lakes. People will have to do things like either mowing, or you call it, or they bring in like this rake that'll bring out a lot of the plant material because it's very nutrient rich and stuff grows. And eventually it wants, if you will, to fill in. Cultural eutrophication is more about what I was describing. That is because of our actions. Too much nutrients are in the water. Eutrophication is completely natural. It happens. But cultural eutrophication means it's going at a much higher pace because of human actions. All right, that is the last slide of this lecture and the chapter.